Hey yo, it's Retro. Welcome to another video. Y'all, we're talking about Fantastic Four by Dwayne McDuffie and Paul Pelletier. A run that I have always knew existed and I was always going to read, and yet I hadn't gotten to it until recently. And really this is thanks to Owen likes comics. We had a talk recently about John Stewart, the Green Lanterns, and also recently about this run. And if you want to check out his video, I have it linked right here. But things just work out very well. I had this script written for quite some time, and Owen Kirby from Comic Krackle and myself, we teamed up for a roundtable discussion about this run, just because it is a genuinely fantastic run. And I really wanted to talk about this for this video, mainly because I have a very unique perspective to the Fantastic Four, quite frankly. I don't want to say I have zero interest in Marvel's first family. I do respect and love them from afar. And this really isn't an indictment on the team or the creators that have taken over this title over the years. I've read the classics, Kirby and Lee's foundational run that every run tries to recapture, Wade and Ringo's fun turn of the century reinvention that kinds of just brings the team into the 21st century post Heroes Return and Onslaught and everything. Hickman's incredible chess battle between Reed and Doctor Doom that would eventually lead into Avengers and New Avengers, and then Secret Wars, of course. And I've also read Ryan North's, which is, I always say, is the most balanced Fantastic Four run of the last 60 years. And while all of those are great, outside of that, I've always found myself just not as wowed by the title. But with the new Fantastic Four First Steps movie coming out, I thought I'd talk about a Fantastic Four comic I actually connected to quite a bit. And Dwayne McDuffie and Paul Pelletier's run is definitely that one. And I'll be honest, for the impact and ability that McDuffie had as a writer, I will continue to sing his praises as the most criminally underrated writer to ever grace the comics medium. Co-creator and writer of Icon, co-creator of Static and Hardware, writer of Damage Control for many, many issues, co-founder and editor of all of the Milestone titles during its beginning. Overall, a character in the comic space who has done so much for comics as a whole, especially for Black people and people of color, both in and out of the page, while also being one of comics' funniest writers ever. And a lot of McDuffie's impact you really can't read on a page in a comic book. And one day he will be universally praised and recognized as he should. But one of those unfortunate moments is the fact of this being an extremely short run on the title that started at the tail end of Civil War. Now, this time for the Fantastic Four is actually pretty interesting. Going back to the end of Onslaught and Heroes Return, the Fantastic Four title was relaunched in 1998 with Scott Lobdell and Alan Davis spearheading the title until Chris Claremont and longtime running mate Salvador LaRocca would team up and have a pretty lengthy run on the title. Eventually, Mark Waid and Mike Wieringo would also have a crack at the team, writing what most would agree is what ingratiates the team into the 21st century. This would kind of soft launch a bit of a renaissance of the Fantastic Four at this time. Their first Fox movie would debut, and they'd also even have an animated show, Fantastic Four: World's Greatest Heroes, which is an awesome show. I love those fucking costumes. I'm actually shocked they never put those costumes in the comics even once. Marvel has shown some great restraints with those costumes. During this time, this prominence would pretty much continue up until Hickman's run would start. And for a time, with so much notoriety, what I feel like is seriously forgotten in this time is McDuffie's Fantastic Four run. A short yet extremely impactful run that not only pushes the Fantastic Four out of Civil War and propels them into the modern era, both with the idea that the Fantastic Four can solve everything and the balance that McDuffie brings to the title. Jack Kirby and Stan Lee have their run, and it's praised for all the right reasons. Wade and Ringo feels like a love letter to the entire history of the Fantastic Four, but the run that I feel like best represents what this team is and how significant all the characters truly are to this team is McDuffie's run. And a run that I even feel like significantly influences the current Fantastic Four run by Ryan North. A title that I have very strongly felt was the most balanced in the way that it treats the character. I said that before. The way that Sue is treated as a character, the way that Johnny Storm is treated as a character, the way the Thing is treated. A lot of runs, you kind of do see that Reed is the main character a lot. I feel like Dwayne McDuffie's run and Ryan North's run are the only runs that truly take time to flesh out each and every character equally. Now, like I said, this run starts in the wake of Civil War, a Marvel event that dealt with the ethics of being a superhero with a secret identity and put everyone in the Marvel universe on one of two sides, either for or against the Superhero Registration Act. Everybody has watched the Captain America Civil War movie. I'm not really going to explain what happened in this comic. It's kind of similar. I will say that this is a lot more in depth. This event is a lot more in depth on how the Superhero Registration Act works. The movie kind of just deals with Cap and Iron Man being on two different sides about Winter Soldier. And while I feel like the idea of superheroes needing a check and balances does kind of make sense, obviously teaming up with S.H.I.E.L.D., the most covert government institution in the Marvel universe, and just in general teaming up with a government institution at all in this is not a good idea whatsoever. I will be quite frank with y'all. Civil War as an event is one of Marvel's strangest events. You've probably heard this a bajillion times. I myself also agree. The event itself is not the best. I think everything surrounding it is amazing. And really, I think that is what the legacy of Civil War is, how it changed the landscape of the Marvel universe. Marvel at this time was really dipping into the world outside their window bag, and it is a huge contribution to my love for this time at Marvel. Everything felt interconnected, but at the same time, you didn't feel like you had to read every single thing to get every single thing. Between Bendis' New Avengers, Fraction's Iron Man, Brubaker's Captain America, even J. Michael Straczynski's Spider-Man, all of these were a consequence of this world outside your window idea, and it really felt so lived in. This Marvel universe felt so lived in. Quite frankly, if you had a book coming out of this event, it was a huge net positive. This event split the Fantastic Four pretty hard though, with Reed Richards aiding Tony Stark, causing a rift between him, Sue, and the rest of the team. This is where McDuffie drops in and begins his run, dealing with the fallout of Civil War and how the Fantastic Four can come back from this. Fantastic Four 542 to 543 is honestly a masterclass in how to be handed a pretty shitty situation and turn it into amazing status quo. Reed Richards basically betraying his family, especially Sue, in a way that made sense to him but was extremely flawed is great. And taking those first two issues to really deal with this problem in a way that only family can, by talking, it's amazing. And at the end of the day, Reed didn't mean anything serious by it, and McDuffie did a wonderful job portraying that very autistic side of Reed Richards by creating a very in-character motivation for siding with Tony. Psychohistory. The basis of psychohistory is the fact that when it's applied to the Registration Act, it just basically indicated that billions would die without the presence of this. Now, this development, I guess, doesn't really absolve Reed Richards, and that's one of my favorite parts of this. Sue calls Reed Richards out on his shit on this whole discovery and challenging him on the basis that this being a law doesn't make it right. Something that, while it's a basic challenge, hits so much harder knowing McDuffie wrote it, because I know he's possibly pulling from laws like slavery, Jim Crow, etc., which, I don't know, it just hits different for me. I love this moment for Sue. It is one of the best parts of showing how a marriage is portrayed truly, like how a relationship works. You have two people who try to keep each other in check, and it's awesome. And really, one of the best things about this run is Sue's involvement and her importance. Reed and Sue at this point felt disconnected, and in one of the best showcases of their relationship, they both agreed they felt like they needed to step away from the team to work on their marriage. And I love that this happens, because it's easy for any writer to kind of make this one-sided, but McDuffie really does showcase what being in a marriage really feels like. And that perfectly segues also into who replaces them. T'Challa and Storm, who are happily married at this point and are probably at the best they've ever been. And this is a wonderful opportunity both to have McDuffie write these two characters, which I don't think he's done very much, and also to contrast Reed and Sue's relationship. This will be the centerpiece of this first arc of this run up until they leave, having Black Panther and Storm, who were on the run because of Civil War and the Wakandan embassy being destroyed, join the Fantastic Four, creating the new Fantastic Four. They were gifted the Baxter Building as a temporary embassy, and Johnny and the Thing essentially work as ambassadors for the Fantastic Four in their place. I need some water. Now, like I said earlier, Dwayne McDuffie is one of the funniest writers. You see it in the first issue, and I remember reading this issue and immediately feeling somber because comics just don't have this air around them anymore. Between the title card of "we used to go to hyperspace to get donuts" and the very real core of this issue and how this all kicks off the rest of the run, I just adore this. With T'Challa and Storm replacing Reed and Sue, they would also just essentially go on adventures alongside Ben and Johnny, allowing the Fantastic Four's mission statement of being discoverers still to be present. It's a lot of fun. There's quite a bit of humor within these issues because you get to see the dynamic of Storm with the rest of the team and T'Challa with the rest of the team. They're two people who are very different from Reed and Sue, but also in a lot of ways kind of similar. And I love this. It feels like they're replacing them, but honestly, it just feels like the Fantastic Four's cousins are over more so than anything. Or when I was talking to Owen and Kirby from Comic Krackle, I was more so saying like they feel like an aunt and uncle staying over. The cool aunt and uncle coming over and staying with the Fantastic Four. This moment, these dynamics that Dwayne McDuffie writes for the team, it honestly feels like a lightning in a bottle effect. Like this couldn't have been more perfect. Even leading it to T'Challa and Storm's true reason of staying and wanting to kind of be at the Baxter Building, because honestly, they could have went to any number of presidential suites in the US, like T'Challa says, but they did it to help two friends repair something so special as a marriage. They felt an obligation to stand in for Reed and Sue because they felt like if they didn't, Reed and Sue would find any number of excuses to not really deal with their marriage right now. Whether it be Galactus coming to Earth, dealing with Epoch, or Eternity needing cosmic surgery. Even with all that goes on cosmically, the Fantastic Four is a title that heavily focuses on family, and that's what's important. The dynamics of this, how it's showcased, and it's a pretty interesting shakeup to this title. Removing any single member would be removing a super important pillar of the team. Plugging in Black Panther and Storm was a great choice though, and especially with Black Panther's early years coming from the Fantastic Four's title originally, and having Storm come along makes this intersection of superhero teams all the more important. Now with T'Challa and Storm's departure, that four is whole again, and Reed and Sue, I wouldn't say fixed their marriage, but they have worked towards fixing it and making it better. And we begin the finale of this run. Now, quite frankly, I feel like McDuffie shows some real restraint in this Fantastic Four run, taking almost 9 issues to include Dr. Doom in a Fantastic Four run that is only 14 or 12 issues. And this entire inclusion and story is again amazing. McDuffie's writing for Doom feels like a return to form, especially after Mark Waid and Mike Wieringo's version of Dr. Doom, who was a lot more purely evil, and it was kind of weird, but I love this portrayal of Dr. Doom. This entire final arc centers around Dr. Doom, Namor, and T'Challa coming back from the future to warn the Fantastic Four about Reed, and McDuffie's planting of huge red herrings in this issue is flawless. As Doom warns the team, Reed Richards shoots both Namor and T'Challa in the most shocking way ever, and you almost begin to believe Dr. Doom at this moment until you realize they were two Doom bots. This unfolds Doom's plans almost immediately as the Fantastic Four from his timeline come back, and this begins a huge fight between the two teams until the future Fantastic Four finally get through to the current team. This builds into one of the most significant and powerful moments of this team. We learn Dr. Doom comes back because Reed Richards figured out how to solve everything first, and only wished he got there before Reed. As Kirby from Comic Krackle says it,
that's why it's a good Doom plot. Yeah, I love everything about it. At the end of the day, like, Doom is a petty bitch. That's like the core of Doom. Like, he's just mad he didn't get to it first. And like, you can kind of see that in the beginning, and like the technology that he has, like the force field, and Reed's able to like look through it a little bit more. And I kind of see this like their dynamic in the same way that I see like Lex Luthor and Superman, where Lex wants to be the one that saves them, and he's pissed because Superman has something that he can never get. It's not his brains, and it's not the fact that Reed has the stretchy ability. It's just he's smarter, and he doesn't want to admit it to himself. And like with Lex, that's something that he can never get. And you have the power suit, but like that's not him actually going up to that point. And I think that that's like a similar dynamic. Now, obviously, Lex Luthor's willing to go a little bit farther, depending on your interpretation of Doom. And that's why I like Doom. And he wants to be Reed. And we see that in like Secret Wars, like we were talking about before, where he just takes the life of Reed. Having the rest of the Fantastic Four, like having Sue. I don't think he actually cares about like being married to Sue. He wants to be Reed. And that's, I love that pettiness that's really instilled in him. But also it's like showing, this is the logical conclusion of Civil War, and this is the misunderstanding of Reed.
Thanks, Kirby. This leads Reed to find another alternate timeline that hadn't been solved and send Doom there to do the same. And then this leaves both Reeds to reveal the amount of people it takes to solve everything. 4. This whole ending of this arc is just amazing because it shows Reed Richards' heroism, and it shows how much Dr. Doom really is not like an evil person. He will come to the wrong conclusions, or he'll come to the wrong way of doing things, but he's never doing it out of ill will. He's always doing it because he actually wants things to be better. He runs Latveria the way most people will probably want to run a country, in the better way. But it's just portrayed in this wonderful dichotomy of Reed and Dr. Doom being these two very important figures that want to solve everything but do it in very different ways. And unfortunately, Reed gets there first and Doom is always coming in second. And it even comes to this funny point where Reed recognizes this time traveling device that Doom uses, and Doom comments that he made it better, and really like he probably didn't.
It was your designs, but I improved it. And then like we find out, not really, like that's not what happened.
Reed got there first and he figured it out first. So it's really funny. And the whole like how many people it takes to solve everything bit, it's a sequence that is so much more impactful than it is ever given credit. A moment that really is the basis of Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four run. Like, you would think this would have so much more importance and so much more relevance to the comics like history or community or anything, but it doesn't, and it's so strange. Unfortunately, and I think this is really why this gets like kind of swept under the rug a bit until Hickman takes the title, this run is followed up immediately by Mark Millar and Brian Hitch, and yeah, I'm not reading that run, and I'm not a fan of Mark Millar. Not to say that he's a bad person or anything. I don't have an opinion on him as a person, but I'm not reading that. I don't care. I don't like any of his books. But man, it's criminal not only how short this run is, but how impactful and significant it is to the very identity of this team.
It's like a great modern take on what a classic Fantastic Four run is, in the same way that like Ryan North's is that, the way they both have these kind of like short story anthology formats almost, as opposed to like, I am writing a 12-issue story for a trade. This is, 11 issues, and it's kind of 3 or 4 stories that run throughout it. And it's just a couple of like quick 2 or 3 parter adventures that how comics used to be written in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, while also being a run that very much kind of rehabs the characters after Civil War and sets the Fantastic Four up for the kind of like next decade of adventures. And I think that, at least for me, like the legacy can be seen in that. It can be seen in Hickman, it can be seen in North, but it's also seen in so many of other Dwayne McDuffie's great books, and the characters he created that have gone on to have a legacy, and the characters he uses here that have become, you know, big cultural phenomenons in wider media. And it's just a great fucking series. It's comics at their very best. And that sounds like a really simplistic way of analyzing a year's worth of output, but it's just great comics. And it's, for me personally, it's everything I look for in a Fantastic Four book, while still trying to do new stuff and challenging my expectations of who these characters are.
Now, I did not forget about the Fantastic Four special issue written by Dwayne McDuffie and drawn by Casey Jones. The issue where Reed and Doom have dinner on the death anniversary of Doom's mother. One of the best and most heartfelt interaction between these two, and again, one of the most underrated moments for them. An issue where these two longtime rivals just talk for a long time. I'm talking like the whole issue is just them talking. It's like 40 pages or 20 pages, and they're just talking about their history as they play chess with each other without a chessboard. We find out the accident that impaired Dr. Doom was an experiment to bring back his mother from the dead. And after the explosion, Reed Richards actually took his notes attempting to improve them, but unfortunately he just never could. And he even confesses to him about this, that he tried, but he just couldn't figure it out. After this, after a long talk, he gives Doom the locket his mother used to wear. And you can tell how much this means to Dr. Doom, while also making him conflicted because of his contempt for Reed. Because at the end of the day, no matter how many battles they have, Reed never hated Doom and only wants the best for him. And on a day where Doom essentially declares a ceasefire, it's very sweet that they have this moment, and I love this issue so much. It's one of the best Reed and Dr. Doom issues ever. Dwayne McDuffie he's an exceptional writer. He gets the Fantastic Four. He gets any character that he takes on. And truly, I hope this video makes you all go out and read this run, because I feel like whether you're a Fantastic Four fan or not, this is purely a great comic book first and foremost, and I think everyone can get something out of this. It's not like the Fantastic Four First Steps movie. I don't think the movie will ever kind of deal with what's going on here, of course, but you know, it is a great Fantastic Four comic to read, and I think you all should read it. Huge shout out to both Owen and Kirby for joining me on this and allowing me to talk about this run with them. If y'all like my videos, y'all will like theirs. Go ahead and check them out. I'll have their channels linked below. And if you've read McDuffie's Fantastic Four run, let me know in the comment section below what y'all thought. Like, subscribe, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace.